Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel, Massive Iron Live. It is Friday. What is it? August 12th. August 12th, Friday, August 12th. And I appreciate you guys joining me. Hey, before we get started, looks like I'm having a little bit of connection problems. So let me know if the quality sucks. I didn't have time to reset the internet before the video. So let me know if the quality is okay or not. Ustream gives me, or StreamYard gives me connection information. It's saying my connection is unstable. All right, guys, before we get started, hope things are well. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you have any big plans for the weekend, how your week of training went, what program are you running? I'd be curious to see what you're running. All that kind of stuff. Summer is coming to a close here, and man, I'm not really looking forward to cold weather in the fall. I don't mind cool weather, and I don't mind the fall, but I'm really just the fact that summer is breezing by and we're going to be headed back towards winter. Not really ready for it yet. So if you're new here, don't hesitate to post up a question. There are no dumb questions, no stupid questions, just awkward questions, weird questions, and questions we really didn't want to see, right? Right. So don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Post up your questions. I decided to go crazy today with a green monster. So hopefully that doesn't disrupt my energy flow. My dog Snoops, Mr. P Snizzle, he's getting his balls snipped today, and feel kind of bad for the little guy because he's like a child. He doesn't know what's going on when daddy's not around, and that we had to drop him off this morning. So comments. If your comments not showing up, head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. Slide into my DM. There's my Instagram. You can send DMs after live is done if you're late to the party, or if your comments are simply not going through. Try that. Know that if your comments aren't going through, it's not me. Okay, it is YouTube. YouTube can be very fickle with this sort of stuff. So if your comments are going through, make sure to maybe reword them or try reposting them a little bit shorter. So last week I started off live with a little bit of a mini topic, and I'm going to do that as well. Before I get into things, I'm going to let you guys know every week someone that posts before live starts gets a chance to win a free hoodie or t-shirt. I like giving away free stuff because, it's an honor to have to be able to do this for a living, to be able to do this. And I try to give away as much free stuff as I can. Last week on Instagram, I ran a contest, gave away 3 flags. So we'll pick a winner today. And then before I do so, I want to get into this. And I want to do a little bit of topic each week on live just for fun. And I'm just checking the comments here. No one's saying they're having any problems with the live. So let's talk about this. I'm gonna read this, and I want you guys to understand this isn't about me. This post isn't about me. I wanted to talk about this because this is really about the lifting industry in general and kind of how reactionary things can be. If you share an opinion, it's social media in general. If you share an opinion on something, people automatically assume that everything's black and white, that you're a black and white type of person. Early in my career, I started with a website called Muscle and Brawn. It was my own website, and it took off. It did really, really well. Had a huge forum, and just really grew. It grew into a website that was competing with bodybuilding.com as the lifting and powerlifting website of the year. That's fans' votes, not my votes, right? Not my opinion. So it did really well, and because of it, we because of it, I got asked to write articles for Muscle and Strength. So I started writing articles for Muscle and Strength. Back in the day, they were paying me like $1,000 a month, which was a lot of extra bank, when you're just a small cheezo like I was. So anyway, eventually that grew and their site grew and they asked me to work full time. And I came on full time down in South Carolina and started monitoring their forums. And on the Muscle and Brawn days, we would talk a lot about different types of programs, full bodies, upper lowers. It was really, really a forum that was well ahead of the curve. We were talking about things like natural potential and different types of training variations. And I think we all kind of knew everything worked. We had this really good understanding. So anyway, when I went to work for Muscle and Strength, and I became one of the top moderators and the content director, top moderators on their forum, and the content director. There were a couple of the old school guys that were big moderators on their forum that had spent 20 years in competitive bodybuilding that got, basically, there's no other way to say it, they were pissed that I was talking about, that someone would ask a question on the forum and I say, yeah, you can do full body. It's viable. They were getting pissed and they were actually calling for me to be fired from my job because I was teaching things that would lead you guys astray. So fast forward about a decade later, and now when I do the opposite, I talk about body part splits as being viable. You should see the comments I get, behind the scenes. It's hard for you guys to see, but for me, man, I the comments I get are super predictable and just almost crazy. So in any case, what I find interesting about lifting is that you can if you can say one thing is viable and a certain amount of people think you're against the other thing, and anybody that's followed me over the long run knows that I believe anything is viable. This is based on personal experience, and understanding of the pillars of success. It doesn't really matter how you train as long as you're consistent, get a lot stronger than you are now, nail your nutrition, have a good exercise selection, evolve your programming, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, this post isn't about me as much as it is about how angry people get over lifting, how close-minded people get over things, how they don't want to listen to the truth or be open to new ideas, how they want one way to be the way and their way. And, I'm going to read what I wrote here, and then we can move on with the rest of the live. This is 100% true. If you want to see how angry and irrational people act, then discuss lifting. I've always preached that everything works, and I always will. To ignore this reality is to not understand how training works. You have lifters busy worrying about one aspect of training, that's muscle protein synthesis or frequency, failing to see that over the long run, all these major variables really pale in comparison. Over the long run, all these major variables really pale in comparison to the big picture. The pillars of success that I talked about in my book, Massive Iron. But let's talk bias and witch hunting for a moment. Back in the day, when I mentioned that frequency training was viable, folks assumed that meant that body part splits were not. They immediately assumed I was 100% a frequency guy. How the pendulum swings, right? A few mature competitive bodybuilders and prominent members of the Muscle and Strength Forum were so pissed at me that they asked I be fired for spreading confusion and nonsense. Fast forward 10 years after the cult of muscle protein synthesis had completely scared the lifting community into believing MPS, muscle protein synthesis, was the only major training variable and that its importance was 100 times greater than it actually was. And that's really the key here. It's not that muscle protein synthesis isn't a variable. It is, but they elevate it to be much more important than it is. And in the real world, it has a very minimal importance. When I mention that body part splits are viable, people shit the bed. They freak out, call me an idiot, and often push back asking for me to be unfollowed. And trust me, I get plenty of comments like that. It's also assumed that this means I'm against frequency training, which is ridiculous. No, I don't think anybody in the lifting world has put out more full body. I challenge you to find anybody that has a seasoned career like I have that has put out more full bodies or upper lowers. Most of my clients are on upper lowers. Many of them are on push pull. Probably only 10% are on body part splits. And that's, if you look at my client base over the last 5 years, probably 90% of them are on frequency training. When I mentioned that body part splits are viable, people shit the bed. I read that. Both sides are absolutely clueless as to what is truly important in the long run. And let me tell you, it's not one training variable, and that's frequency. Do you really think that in 5 to 8 years, that if you get a lot stronger than you are now, train hard and consistently, crush your nutrition and sleep, use a good exercise selection, use a reasonable volume, evolve your training based on needs, master reasonable exercise form, that you'll be dramatically bigger or smaller than someone that uses a different frequency? Sorry, you're wrong. You are wrong. 100% wrong. I stand for both because I know that in the long run, this is a finite journey that requires a lot of hard work and time in gym, and how frequently you train really doesn't matter compared to the cumulative impact of all the other training variables. These variables have been in my book, Massive Iron, and they will always be in my book, Massive Iron. This is always will be always what I preach. All right. Let me know what you think. Am I a heretic? Right. So let's dive into things. HB, one of my clients, assuming you can train anytime and have no preference, is there a best, better time to train? If you can train at any time, the best time to train would probably be mid-afternoon. The central nervous system is a little bit more awake and aware. And, you're a little bit, let's face it, you can train in the morning. But, it takes a while for things to get up to speed, including your central nervous system. So the best time is really the time that's most convenient for you and that you enjoy training. So if we want to talk about minor training variables, some of the science shows that your central nervous system is more awake and aware, mid to later afternoon. I believe it's like 2 or 3 o'clock. Hey, Team Massive. Join if you haven't. If you haven't joined Team Massive, you can head over to superlivingtoday.com. Click the Team Massive. There's a one-time fee, but it's basically to keep the trolls and the riffraff out and the haters. We have a pretty clean group. If you're really tired of Facebook and you want some good lifting conversation, some good motivation, and just a really good positive environment, check out Team Massive. It's a good investment, and with it, you get weekly form checks, and you get to hit me up directly, like as a form of micro coaching. I'm there to help within reason. Stein, what's going on, Stein? That new avatar keeps throwing me off, by the way. Amanda P, if feeling irritation on a lift, should I keep the same weight until it's no longer an issue? I assume you have some kind of muscle irritation or connective tissue. If you're in the gym and something's feeling off, you probably need to shut down that lift. You need to be really super cautious. This is one of the keys to success in long-term lifting. Be very, very cautious, super cautious. So if you're feeling irritation week in and week out on a specific lift variation, I would definitely consider setting it aside for a couple months and just letting it go away and revisiting it in a couple months. If you have more information, Amanda, that you'd like me to comb through, post that up, but that's some general advice. Strongwise, when I saw the title, I thought I was a heretic. Mickey Chan, how's it going? Mickey, thanks for joining in. Any ideas for coming back from an elbow injury? Taking time completely off made it worse. That's if you have an elbow injury and time off, made it worse, the only thing I could say is see a doctor, because that is not normal. As long if it's not elbow tendonitis, is generally not going to start to get better until you use grip support. But outside of elbow tendonitis, if it's some other injury, the best thing I can say is see a doc, because that is highly unusual. David, I think both are great to have in rotation. I'm quite a bit into my fitness journey, but for beginners, which do you think is better to start with? I assume David, you're talking about splits. So what I typically say is, for someone that's like a ranked novice, let's do frequency training, not a lot of volume on a given day. If you go into the gym as a beginner or novice and you're doing 12 sets for chest, not only are you going to be incredibly sore, but you're beating the living crap out of your connective tissue. So it's a little bit better to use frequency training probably the first 4 months, full body, just to ease into things. Maybe start with 2 sets per exercise and grow into 3. After 4 months, it's probably a good idea to switch to an upper lower. Upper lower is the best of both worlds, and you can keep them flexible. I like to program 4 workout variations for my clients: upper A, lower or posterior A, upper B, lower posterior B. And you have 4 workouts, so you can basically cycle through these, keep a flexible schedule, and you can work out 3 days this week, 4 days the next, maybe 5 days the next. So it allows you to kind of listen to your body and insert rest days when you need to. So, I'm a big fan of that. I think upper lowers provide a really good balance for folks. Body part splits, once you get pretty strong and your lifts, like your deadlifts and squats and stuff, are taking a long time to do warm-ups, a body part split can make a lot of sense. Because if you have 2 big lifts in the mix and you're trying to do an upper lower, it can really take some time in the gym. So older lifters, more recovery, a body part or bro split is probably a better option. Lifters that are getting pretty strong, they should consider not that it's the only way, but consider maybe moving to a body part split. Now, regarding splits, it's not very often that I come up with something new, but I'm working on a new PDF called Massive Junk, and I'm really excited about it. It's very rare where I get an idea in my head that I'm super excited about. But Massive Junk basically is going to take the conventional full body, the conventional upper lower, even the conventional body part split. There's a lot of little things that we try to squeeze into these workouts that can sometimes make training days go a little bit longer. So with Massive Junk, what I'm going to do is show you guys how to take a full body, how to take an upper lower, how to take a body part split, and basically program in a junk day where you add a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some of the minor stuff, anywhere from rear delts to calves to abs to even some direct arm work, stuff like that, where you can put stuff in a junk day and not feel like you have to cram everything into a full body day. So there's no rule that says we have to do everything in a full body 3 times a week, right? So with this new style of training, I'm going to show you guys how to hit the majors and then add in a bonus junk day and, have less time in gym on a full body on an upper lower, and then 1 day a week where you can kind of have a less intense junk day with calves and abs and rear delts and, maybe some arm work, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be an interesting thing. I'm going to try to work on that on Sunday. My wife has something going on, so maybe there's a chance I could have that done by Monday. All right. After the lockdown, I hired a trainer to help me get my consistency back. I actually requested a bro split because the full body workouts we were doing didn't seem to have any rhyme or reason. Yeah, that's one of the problems with programming. Anybody can program. And because anybody can program, It's like a car. Anybody can sit in a car and drive the car from point A to point B. That doesn't mean they're a good driver. It's the same thing with creating a workout. Anybody can look at exercises and create a workout. I wish these messages would just, like, I could put them in a box on the side instead of having them like consume my entire face. You know what I'm saying? When we switched to a bro split, I actually started making tangible progress. That's good. Sometimes, this is always on a lift by lift basis, but sometimes, adding more rest in for a specific lift is a good thing, not a bad thing. I personally like the balance and structure and flexibility of an upper lower. One thing a body part split takes away from you is flexibility. You can easily add a rest day in on an upper lower split. On a body part split, if you do so, kind of sets you back a little bit. So the best way to do like a body part split would be to maybe structure it 4 days, 2 day on, 1 day off, and you leave a room for an extra rest day somewhere in the mix. Harut, I think the term bro split gives a negative connotation. Yeah, I agree. I don't like using bro split. I mean, it's just I call it a body part split or a pro split, because back in the day all the pros used it. It's just silly, and it's just something that's developed that only has a negative connotation, and people dismiss it. But I am certainly not trying to push people into using a body part split. It's all I've ever used, really. I've messed around with other things. I've ran full bodies. I've ran upper lowers, but that's real. 98% of my training has been on a body part split. I like it, but I'm not pushing you guys to use it. Obviously, I mentioned 90% of my clients do not use a body part split. So, we kind of work with what the client likes. And that's important for you guys. You guys need to pick a split that you like and run with it. My bookshelf. I think I need another bookshelf. I'm getting crammed full of books. Kalen, if I do direct forearm work for 3 to 4 months in a bulk, will I lose the gains when I stop doing direct work? Well, Kalen, when I was at my strongest, I ran a lot of frequency just on the big lifts. Squats, deads, bench. Really, that's about it. Very minor, work. If it was minor, if it was assistance work at all, it was basically like doing close grips and bench, doing shrugs and deadlifts. So one thing I found doing that a year is that my arm size decreased by 1 inch. So that is a unique case. What I will say, Kalen, is that I've never trained my forearms really directly with probably no more than 20 sets in my life. In 38 years of training, my forearms are huge, one of my better body parts. And I see this on experienced lifters as well. So what I would say to you is that every body part can be different. But with forearms, I do not believe, number one, you're not going to gain that much size to begin with in 3 to 4 months. That doesn't mean you won't be able to notice it, but it's not going to be extreme. Because you're doing all the gripping and all the other work on the rest of your program, I don't think you're going to lose anything. That's my experienced opinion. Doc, during a calorie deficit, I find that I am so fatigued that the last few exercises feel like junk volume. They're not. They're not junk. That's something in your head you need to get out. As long as you're doing the work, if you feel fatigue, that's just, maybe you have less glycogen in the muscles. You just don't have the energy. But it's definitely not junk volume. You're pushing as much as you can. I have a home gym. Any issues taking a few hours off, then finishing the workout later? No, there's no issues with that. But one thing I would consider is maybe reducing sets of assistance work, other than the big primary lifts, to maybe 2 sets per exercise during the cut. Your cut probably isn't going to be lasting that long. So, a little bit of desensitization without dropping all the volume isn't going to be a bad thing. Josh, roid abuser. Josh, the roid abuser. We're being facetious here, folks. Josh is in the 160s, and somebody accused Josh of being a roid abuser, a roid monster. I seem to have constant joint pain after COVID. Common? I don't know. I had 3 or 4 months after COVID where it felt like I was breathing in smoke. I have asthma issues to begin with. And it felt like just there was times on live where I felt like I was breathing in smoke, like I was in a smoky room. And I tried to mask that and just continue on, but it was hard to breathe. It was hard to speak. I know somebody, a lady locally that lost her sense of taste. She hasn't been able to taste food since COVID ended like 2.5 years ago. So I'm no COVID expert, but the fact that myself and one other person experienced lingering long-term side effects, I would not be surprised at all. Scott MC, what's going on? All right, big fella, do you get tired of people in the fitness community being so fickle? Yes, I do. I get tired of people being so black and white. Sometimes you can't do right or wrong with them. I do, but I try to use it as a teaching tool, right? Like today, what I talked about, I try to use it as a teaching tool, to help you guys. It's not like, oh, poor me. Somebody wanted me to be fired from Muscle and String. What that post was really about is how ridiculous and fickle and bitchy and just irrational, illogical bitches so many people in the fitness industry can be. It's just lifting. And the over scientification, how's that word? The over obsession with optimization, when 98% of people that are searching for optimal aren't going to train for 10 straight years. I'm not saying that as a negative thing. It's just a reality. The people that really reach their goals in the industry are people that train for a long, long time relentlessly. So, there are times where I took a year or two off from training. At the birth of my second daughter, she was very colicky, and it made it really, really hard to sleep, and I had to stay up late at night, and there was no time to work out. But when I came back in 2005, 2006, after a small absence from lifting, maybe a year, I've trained nonstop for 16, 17 years since then. 16, 17 years. Man, time goes by quickly. Stein, woohoo, live. Happy Friday. I almost read that as happy birthday. My birthday isn't until October. My current program, I can't speak. My current program is arms, shoulders, traps. I'm trying to see if I missed anything in the chat, because that's not a complete program. And you posted it later on. Yeah, I figured there was something that got clipped off, so we'll get to it later on. Now look, this is 11. This comment came in at 11:02, so I have to pick my winner. I have to pick my winner for a shirt, and I'm gonna pick Kalen. Good question, Kalen. You can hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman. At Ben the Barman, slide into my DM. I'll give you a free T-shirt or hoodie. Let me know what you'd like, or even a flag, whatever. And if you don't have Instagram, email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. All right, where are we? F's in the chat for peace, Nizzle. Patrick, I appreciate your recent emphasis on seated OHP at a 70-degree incline. I don't have access to an adjustable bench and can't do standing. Suggestions. What I would probably do, Patrick, is do a seated pin press. I really, really am falling. After 38 years, you would think you know everything, right? You have everything in the bag, right? In the bag of tricks. But Lately, the more I see seated overheads, the more I see people unracking from a high position, unracking from an awkward position. And I'm really falling in love with the seated pin press because you can set the bar right here, right at upper chest below the chin level, and you can kind of lean in and push up, and then you can rest it back on the pins, and you can have that brief pause, or you can just keep going. And I think it's a really, really good option if you don't have an adjustable bench. So a seated pin press, set those pins on your squat rack right about where above the massive. And what do I got here? What do I got there? I got some food. What did I eat? Set it right about there, and then you can pin press it up. I'm a really big fan of that. David, here we go. My current split is day one by arms, traps, shoulders, back, chest, and legs. So that's okay. You have basically arms, shoulders, and some trapezoids. The only thing you don't want to do is have fatigued arms going into back and chest work. So if you're doing your arm work and shoulder work the day before back and chest, you might want to switch those around. You don't want to have your delts fatigued and triceps fatigued heading into chest. You don't want to have your biceps and triceps and traps fatigued heading into back. You really want to do, you would want to do back and chest day one, then probably, probably if you have back and chest, you're going to go into shoulders with some minor front delt fatigue. That should be okay. In a perfect world, I'd like to do day one rest, day 2, 3 rest, day 1 rest, day 2, 3 rest, and day 1 would be back and chest. Who would win, Rocky Balboa or Rambo? Probably Rambo. He's got too many weapons to be held back. Paul from Team Massive. Massive Mass Bro Split changed my life. I'm glad to hear it. And Paul works hard, so that's some good feedback. How important do you think GPP is for increasing strength? Not at all. And the only reason I'm not dismissing general conditioning, I'm a big fan of well-rounded fitness, but I just know far too many powerlifters that don't do anything. I know far too many large, gluttonous, pizza chomping, beer guzzling powerlifters that don't do GPP. It's not important at all, really. That's just reality. I'm not downplaying GPP, but it's nowhere. It's a super minor variable that really, the vast majority of competitive power lifters aren't using it to increase strength. I don't have a sled, so primarily do barbell complexes. That's fine for general conditioning work. Don't rule out body weight stuff, but in the long run, for powerlifting, not really going to help much. Sebastian, to your question, building your work capacity with a reasonable amount of volume is going to be a better option. That's one thing that I see a lot of younger guys that don't have a lot of strength. They're trying to do too much low rep work, not enough, not excessive volume, but just normal volume. More muscle building, power building work. Sebastian, would you rather do bro split and run daily or upper posterior and run 3 days a week? I don't know. It's kind of I'm not saying you're silly, Sebastian, but it's kind of a silly question. Because you can really do either. It's not like one versus the other. I can do a bro split and run daily. I can do an upper posterior and run daily. An upper posterior. The only thing I don't like, it just matters how you structure things. I don't like to run immediately 24 hours before deadlifts or squats. That's just a personal thing. But still, you can still run 5 days a week. If you do posterior work, say, for example, on a Monday and a Thursday, you could run Monday after squats. You could run Thursday after deadlifts. I do that a lot as well. So really plenty of opportunity to do both. And, I'm not being dismissive, but it really comes down to how you structure it and what you like to do. Raphael, I find it hard to recover from training more than 4 days a week. I'm pretty much right there with you. If I'm training hard or running hard, 2 hours a day, I find it difficult to do more than 2 days in a row, and then I need a rest day on the third day. So with running, we used to do, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We would push it a little bit on Wednesday, and then I'd take off Thursday or take off no, I would take off Wednesday and Friday and run Saturday, and then the rest of the days of the week. Sunday would be kind of a back off, but generally 2 days on, one day. That was when I was extreme. 2 days on, one day off is working better. Works better for me when it comes to training and when it comes to running distance. So I'm a big fan of not training more than 2 days in a row, no matter what you're doing. How much weight do bodybuilders lose and how fast when preparing for the stage? Paul, it's a tough question to answer because I've seen a lot of naturals do long cuts, 16, 20 weeks. If they have a lot of fat to lose, some of these guys get pretty big. I literally don't know what these big horses do, off season nowadays. I'm completely detached. I saw one pro that was weighing like 330 in the off season, and I have no idea. And we're not even touching chemicals, right? How their chemical protocol is set up to help them with this stuff. But a typical natty that isn't too far, too far out of shape, maybe 20 weeks max, 16 to 20 weeks, but they're within shouting distance of, of really good conditioning to begin with. Jeff, kids and kettlebell swings, yay, nay. I don't like anybody under the age of 13 doing much work that taxes their lower back or spine in any way. So, even to a minor degree. So, I don't know. If it's super, super, super duper light, they're going to be fine. If they want to play around, just make sure it's super light. At that age, we're not trying to turn them into Olympians. We're just trying to get them in love with exercise. So, yeah, kids can take a beating. Just don't push them to be like superheroes. Just go super light and just work with them on the foundations. Stefan, do you have some advice or solution for excessive soreness? I'd have to look at the program. Sometimes that's just part and parcel with a new program or, with training the first couple of years. That's one reason early on when I was training hard as a noob and a beginner that I liked body part splits because I got a week in between body parts to recover. And I was training hard enough where I needed more than 3 or 4 days generally. So the only thing I can say is maybe stretch out that frequency a little bit, or we'd have to look at your program. So, I'd probably have to look at your program to see if there's anything we can do. We'd have to look at it as on a case by case basis for each muscle group and kind of go from there. You guys are rocking today. Thanks for all the questions. I appreciate it. Just keep them coming. Milan, ring dips versus bench press. Both. It's 100% both. Do both. It's not either or. Either or questions are fantasy world questions are like who would win, Rambo or Rocky Balboa. They're non-questions. They're silly questions. In the real world, Milan, the answer is do both. There's always benefits. A bigger benefit to doing both. 3 days. What's going on? Stefan, do you have already did that one? Repeat, sorry. Aberrant. I despise stepping on treadmills. Good for you. I do too. Can weight training provide cardio improvement? No. You have aerobic and anaerobic capacity. Anaerobic is like short-term bursts. You become really efficient at short-term bursts, like sprinting or lifting hard for 30 seconds. It can improve your anaerobic capacity, but it can't do much for your conditioning. You need to get your butt hiking. You need to get out in the sun, go walk, go hike. Hiking is, you cannot get a much better combination than lifting and hiking. You can't. Just for overall health and wellness, and I'll fight anybody who says differently, right? KK, it's me. Full body splits did in my knees. Had to leave it behind, and you can't train all out every session, which takes the fun out of it personally for me, right? It's like the problem I have with one of the problems I have with full body work is that you end up stuffing more compounds into each session. And it can be mentally and physically challenging, even for experienced lifters. Richard Murray from Mr. Richard Murray from Scotland. Do you have any pointers on using the safety squat bar? Just got one. The safety squat bar, your arms are a little bit forward. And I was just dealing with a client who had this issue today. Your arms are forward. That's throwing your weight a little bit forward, and that can place more stress on your mid back and lower back. So the main thing I can say, Richard, is drop the weight by about 20%. And when you go to a safety squat bar and work up, it's going to be super good on the knees or on the quads, but you just have to take some time and build back up. Rob M, been following your advice for 9 months now and just starting to notice broader shoulders. That's great. When you can notice shoulder progress, you know you're doing something good. When you see shoulder progress, that means you're probably killing everything else as well. Going to take a week and a half rest off training due to circumstances. Should I deload? And when I go back, I just hit the weights as normal. Here's my general rule. If it is more than 10 days since you trained a major lift, squats, deads, bench, overhead, more than 10 days, you probably want to drop weight 10%. 10 days, 10%. More than 14 days, probably maybe 15%. 10, 10, 14, 15, more than 20, probably 20%. Does that make sense? So we could probably make a rule 10, 10, 15, 15, 20, 20. It's not just the muscles that will decondition, it's also the connective tissue. So you're also detaching from your form a little bit. So maybe use the 10, 15, 20 rule. I just made that up now. Now, I didn't just make it up. I actually just refined it right now because I've been preaching it for years. But more than 10 days, drop 10%. More than 15 days, drop 15%. More than 20 days, drop 20%. And just creep back up rapidly. Do you have some advice? We already did that. Sorry, it keeps popping up. Greetings from Scotland. Woodulus, 100K subscribers by Christmas. I am on pace to hit it by my birthday, which is let me just mute this tab. On pace to hit it by my birthday. Let me show you guys something if you don't mind me wasting 60 seconds of your day. And look, none of us want to work anyway, right? So what a better way to spend a Friday. Let me share a screen with you. Share screen. Where are we? Why isn't it sharing the screen? Your entire screen. Cancel. Let me detach that. Okay, let me try this. StreamYard's so funny sometimes with screen sharing that it doesn't. Oh, here we go. So that's current live count. Usually whenever I post my subscribers, 2 people unsubscribe, like, hey, there's a kick in the balls for you, pal. But yeah, that's where I'm at currently. And we're looking at hitting it in early October. I have a very special surprise coming up for that. I'm going to be doing a compilation video of some of the best shows over the years, but I'm also having a poster commissioned, and this just isn't any poster. I'm having kind of a superhero poster, but it's going to have like a bunch of villains in the background all coming after me. And the villains are going to be plays on some of the more villainous fitness YouTubers, but they're caricatures and they're not really based on them, but you know what I'm saying. We created some YouTube villains. It's going to be really fun, and I'm going to be giving out I think 100 signed copies. Just giving gifts away and stuff, just as my way of saying thanks to you guys. Rico, hello, Massive Iron family. Hello, Rico. How's it going? Dean Patterson. My 15-year-old son wants to start lifting. How would you recommend introducing him to lifting? This is something we talked a lot about on Team Massive recently. And you don't want to get him into the squats and deadlifts. You want to give him a good year of training, basically with dumbbells and machines and body weight stuff. Don't push progression the first 6 months. Just kind of you have a neuromuscular adaptation period where your central nervous system isn't efficient and you feel shaky. So the first 6 months, we kind of want to do a lot of dumbbells, a lot of machines, a lot of body weight stuff as a focus. Let progression naturally come. Don't force it. You can work on barbell bench. You can work on, like a seated overhead press. Do not start doing deadlifts and squats until after the 6 month period, until they've kind of pushed past that neuromuscular adaptation stage, until he's, developed some consistency. And then you can start working on squat form, not progression. You got to make sure the squat form is locked and loaded. And you want to be super, super patient with that, because we do not want to do spinal loading and jacking up this kid's lower back and spine. And if any of you guys ever want a custom program for any reason, you can head over to superlivingtoday.com. I do a lot of them, and I would do a complete program and roadmap so for any of you. William Baker. I've been doing body part splits for years. Don't like the term bro split. I'm right there with you. Allows me to focus and train while allowing recovery. And that's one of the biggest benefits. And even for beginners, if you train hard, if you're training hard right out of the gate, you might want a little bit less frequency. There aren't many guys that just give it right out of the gate naturally, but if that's you, you might want a little bit more, less frequency. Nicholas, weird in the 90s, all anyone ever did was bro splits, indeed, and nothing else was ever considered. And we got awesome results. Absolutely. My first look, this is a fact, okay? And I'm not pushing, and I have to stress this, I'm not pushing bro splits, body part splits, or pro splits. But in my career as a writer and editor in the fitness industry, I literally did endless number of body transformation stories. You can find them on Tiger Fitness, Muscle and Strength, and elsewhere. I did endless interviews. Back in the day, I was interviewing top natural bodybuilders that now we kind of worship as idols. And just talking and lifting with everybody. No one did frequency training back then. No one. Okay. Maybe the odd power lifter. But everybody had the same damn results as they have now. In fact, I find it, a little bit easier when you're not trying to just do squats and deadlifts all the time. Josh, I like bro splits when I'm going through stages of bad recovery. Indeed. Now in the summer, I haven't trained other than arms. What? They have developed, and I haven't lost mass. It's really easy to maintain muscle mass. You might have lost some, you just don't know it. But I don't know what kind of shenanigans you're doing. I'm glad you haven't lost mass, but you need to get back on that whole body train. Joe Luis got huge lifting ice blocks all day. His chunk volume was very effective. I don't know anything about this. Maybe he's taking a special sauce. Excuse me. Let me get a drink. All right. That tastes weird when you're used to purple. All right, guys, we're about 50 minutes in. Keep the questions coming. I will keep going as long as you have questions. Have you ever dabbled in nootropics over the years for stress, anxiety? Man, I've written a ton of articles on them. I think back when I was working with the supplement engineer, we did a lot of good work, on spreading the word on nootropics. Do I use them? No. I think it's more pill fatigue for me. I've been doing this for so long that taking pills and powders, it's just like there's a degree of fatigue after a while. I'm super hyper focused on my diet, and that's a main thing for me. And man, I look at these things, I'm like, that looks legit. I should be taking it. And I'm like, I don't want to take another pill. Bro science is underrated. The fact that we call it bro science is really a disservice. Yeah, there's really silly bro beliefs that are ridiculous. But look, I'm going to say this, and if you don't like it, sorry. When a bro says he eats every 2.5 hours for gains, you get the crowd of people rush in and laugh. Ha 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 ha. Fool. Bro science. But you know what? 90% in the crowd that's laughing at him, has shit fucking nutrition. Excuse my honesty. Shit fucking nutrition. So I would rather be the bro science guy with with consistency, even if it's not needed, than some fuckstick nobody laughing in the background that can't even nail his own nutrition. So we have to look at the bigger picture here. We have to be willing to look at the bigger picture. If somebody has a structure, it is better than someone without a structure. If someone has consistency, it is better than someone without consistency. Now, what they believe about that structure, what they believe about that consistency is different than the actual benefits of the consistency or structure. Does that make sense? So just some things to consider. Ian, how's it going? Raphael, are you saying that loafters can drink beer and eat a lot? Power lifters can drink beer and eat a lot. Well, I'm saying that powerlifting sometimes sets aside the bro conventions, because I know a lot of lifters that, I'm not saying they eat like crap, but they don't have the same set of obsessions or generally same rules. I think powerlifting has advanced a lot because, the average individual is now doing more of it, and generally more focused on diet. But over the years, I've not seen a lot of powerlifters just obsessed with GPP, and I've known a lot of big dudes, man, that just. I remember the Lillibridges, who I used to compete with quite often in the UPA meets, and I remember seeing their shopping cart, and there's a lot of meat, but there's also a lot of little Debbies, if you know what I'm saying. I feel like it's easier to recover neurologically at the top and bottom, but the inflammation is big, and on the other hand, on the full body, it's harder neurologically. Not sure what you're referencing, the top and bottom. You mean top of the body and bottom of the body, or posterior and anterior? Maybe you can expound a little bit. How important is the rest time between sets? Not at all. This is something Faz and I have discussed at length, and there's a lot of hype and silliness regarding rest between sets, but really there's no scientific consensus. The best thing is to start at a reasonable place and keep it fluid. What I tell people is, excuse me, when you feel physically and mentally ready to go between sets, then give it. You don't want to be breathing heavy. You don't want to feel like you're not recovered. And this can change set by set, day by day, exercise by exercise. So at the end of the day, um, that's the best starting point. Now you can also do rest pause work, which is also good for bodybuilding, but that's a rest structure that takes this convention and breaks it. But I wouldn't necessarily do that on the big lifts. I would not do it on the big lifts unless it has a proper structure. Like I teach people how to do 10-minute deadlift blocks where they're doing singles and doubles, but they rest in between efforts until they feel physically and mentally ready to go again. But because they're only doing singles or doubles, they're usually ready quite quickly. So, but for bodybuilding, don't think you're going to optimize things by finding a magical rep range. The whole concept is flawed because the demands of every exercise are different. And every single day you're going to feel different. Some days you're going to have more glycogen in the muscles, some days less, some days better sleep, some days worse. Some days you're going to come out and really crush that first exercise, and by the second exercise feel like crap. So keep it fluid and remember that the long term is more important than the short term. The stat, I could never grow my arms to even 16 inches, yet I'm 200 pounds. I would have to, learn more about your training and your strength levels. You really got to get those big compounds up. Your bench 315, your squat to 405, your barbell row to like 275. I could go on and on, but generally, it might be the quality of your arm exercises as well. I don't know how you bulk and cut. Too many things in the equation that I would have to take a look at. I know you like beer. Yes, I do. So how many do you allow yourself to have during the week? We really don't drink during the week. During the pandemic, we did a few times. A lot of stress. I think everybody did, right? Most people did. Hold on. But we do a longer run on Saturday, and usually we are in the habit of having a few drinks and watching a movie that night. So, what's my go-to? I generally don't drink that many. I'm not one of these guys that drinks like six. Usually even on nights I drink, usually after three, I don't really get through the fourth. I like good quality sours. I like strong IPAs. Pilsners, if it's a good Pilsner, I like a good Pilsner. I'll mess around with other things, stouts, and not so much porters. I find them to taste a little watered down for me in general. But I mess around with, Belgian triples, quads, pretty much anything. With beer, a lot of times when it's, nothing that's in, you have two types of beers. You have the single off beer with like a Belgian quad, which you can enjoy as a one-time experience. But if you try to overindulge in these and do them over and over and over again, you get a little palate fatigue, and you get a little fatigue, just from trying to drink the same thing. So, on nights where I'm going to have three or four, generally I will do some kind of an IPA, which is very drinkable, or a sour, which is very drinkable. But I'll keep a rotation in my fridge. So I might do a Pilsner, then I might do a stout, then I might do a Belgian, then I might do an IPA, that sort of thing. The most badass drinks, like my top two favorites, are Dogfish 120, which is 17-18%. And outside of the shock value at the alcohol content, it tastes fucking awesome. It tastes awesome. It's just got a rich depth of flavor. And what else am I thinking? Whiskey Rebellion, which is a local beer made in Dayton. Awesome stout. Just incredibly rich and flavorful. Goes well with the cigar. I haven't trained in 10 years. Will I get newbie gains again? No. No. You can get muscle memory, but you definitely won't get newbie gains over. Whatever you've used up on the newbie gain trail, You could probably get back with muscle memory, but 10 years is kind of pushing it. I need a drink. Got fuzz or something in my throat. Best advanced. The word best is the issue here. Advanced bench program. There's no real best. Sorry, I just dropped something. There's no real best. Once you start to build up your bench, you really have to look at the pieces of the puzzle. Are you really working your shoulders hard? Are you really crushing the living crap out of your triceps? Are you really working your upper back? And then, once you build a pretty strong bench, you can start to get into concurrent periodization, which is kind of the next step. Happy Friday, Invisible Tank Master. All right, Troy, I want to get back to dads after stressing my lower back. What's your best advice? My best advice is to do rack pulls or block pulls from off the ground, 3-4 inches. That's my best advice. Build up your back strength from that level. That's the best advice. Weight reps, probably 3 sets of 5, from that level. And just intuitively add weight when it feels manageable, if that makes sense. 70% of elite bodybuilders, natty or not, use I said blow splits. Bro splits. You're right. They do. That's a fact. Sorry. Not sorry. It is what it is. Again, I'm not pushing body part splits, but it's reality. It's simply reality. And there's no way around it. All right, guys, we got about 5 questions left in the queue. We're going to do a last call. Get in early. And if you're late to the party and miss posting up a question, head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman. Guys, I am also letting you guys know I'm caught up on my work. Me and Faz did a sale where we did custom workouts. So I'm going to take on a couple new clients this week, and I will have time. Most times I have 90% of the time I don't message that I'm taking on clients because I usually get, when you have a client base, usually use 1 or 2 a week, and usually pick up 1 or 2 normally. But the reason why I'm mentioning it, without even mentioning it, the reason why I am mentioning it is because I'm going to be raising prices in the fall. I have the lowest prices in the industry, and I'm with my clients every single day. Charge only $80 a month. And existing clients, don't panic. You are locked in at your rate. You're locked in as long as you stay with me. But I'm going to be moving my new clients to $99 a month, and I'm going to have 2 tiers. So I'm going to have a $99 and a $149. And the higher tier is going to get more. It's not for everyone. Not everyone needs higher tier coaching. So I think it's time to split them up a little bit. But, you can get locked in now if you want. And I'm just letting you guys know, if you've never had a coach, check out the coaching tab. I'm with you guys every single day. You'll be hard pressed to find any coach that does that. This is what I do for a living. I'm not just some coach that checks in once a week and gives you cookie cutter bullshit. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. I'm there every single day. So check that out. Where were we? Troy. Man, I don't know what's in my throat today. I stepped into a bodybuilder's gym in 84, age 13. It didn't seem to do me any harm, and I did bro splits. Yeah, imagine that. Dirk McDerpington. Also, child of Herp McHerpington. How to warm up for a PR. All right, so I'm gonna give you some basic information, and you guys can kind of. I actually have a PR on my web, or a PDF on my website. Excuse me. I got some fuzzy in my throat. I got a PDF on my website, superlivingtoday.com. and you can just search 1 rep max in the search button. You should find it if you want more information. So basically, let's say your squat max is around 275 and you want to test it. And I'll give you a bench example as well. I would do bar by 10, 135 by 6, 7, 185 by 3 to 4, 225 by 2, and then I'd start creeping up, like 20, 25 pounds for singles. You want to decrease the volume while also taking small steps to kind of wake up your central nervous system. So if your 1 rep max on squat, your 1 rep max attempt is going to be about 275. You probably want to do 225, 245, 265, something like that. 225, 250, and then let it rip. If your bench max is around 225, bar by 10, maybe sometimes I do that twice to get the shoulders warmed up. 95 by 8, 135 by 5. And then maybe start bumping up by 25 pounds, 160 by 2, 180, 185 by 1, 200 by 1, and then let it rip. Isn't bro science a joke name for people's lived experience? Kind of, yeah. But, bro science isn't just the methods. It's the faith they put into them, So it's like, it's like any belief. It could be legit, but sometimes I think bro science is more like the wacky overimportance we put in a belief when it was really just a consistency or structure to begin with. Could be comparable to folk knowledge. Yes, it could be. Even with folk knowledge, you have some people that there might be some medical benefits to taking some flower root and mashing it into a powder and putting it into a wound. And over thousands of years, we found that it, staves off this, that, or the other thing. Or some root might de-stress you. Some root tea might de-stress you. People might laugh at the simplicity, but it's very pragmatic. It got results. So regardless of the elevation of beliefs, we have to look at the pragmatism. Why was it working? Why did it work? What can we learn from it? That's the intelligent way to look at things. All right, guys, last call. We got 2 left. What's your view on Jay Cutler's bro split? 2 sets at a lower weight. Well, I don't know. But I will tell you, one thing I have learned from working with these guys over the years is how they train now isn't how they built 99% of their muscle. So that's something we always need to understand. I don't really worry about how a lifter trains now. I want to know what they did to build their 90%. And I think we all should be in that lane as well. My main goal at the moment is growing my arms as my chesticles and back are very developed. Yes, that's going to be 80%. Of your arm development is pushing these big compound lifts. You certainly can do arm specialization programs and arm focus, but you do not want to set this aside. You at least need to maintain or slowly progress. All right, guys, that's it. I appreciate you joining me. Live is done. Questions are done. I appreciate you guys joining me. I'll be here next Friday at 11 Eastern, and we. Can I even find the video? We're out of here.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.